What's happening? Rise here on Nalyo Gaming. I'm here with my buddy Rusty, and today we're actually going to be talking about The Last of Us 2. I finally finished it a few days later than everybody in the world, probably, but I'm glad I finally finished it, and I got Rusty here. We're going to talk through it. Spoiler warning, if you haven't finished the game, we're going to be talking all things The Last of Us 2 and just everything involved. So definitely finish the game before you listen. But if you have finished, I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you joining me, Rusty.
Yeah, no problem, dude. I'm really excited. Actually, I think first things first, I really want to know, how did you feel about the game overall?
I think going into it, because I like hold the first game so near and dear. Yes, I loved it overall, but even with that being said, I absolutely hated parts of the game, which to me I actually spent nights there. This is like a lot, and we're gonna unpack it all, but there was
Oh, yeah.
times when I got into situations in The Last of Us 2 where I had to shut the game off because I was so pissed off at the game and I was hating what I was doing that I had to shut it off. I spent time thinking about it. There was one night, which we'll talk about, that I shut it off at about 2 in the morning, and I didn't play again until the following night, late at night like that, because I was so
Jesus.
mad at what I had played that I needed time. And so you can get a picture of what my feelings were towards the game. I absolutely love the characters. I love the developers. I'm very fond of Naughty Dog and their work with the Uncharted series. And so yes, I absolutely love the game, but I also absolutely hated parts of it. So how about you?
Yeah.
What did you think overall?
Well, for me, it was kind of this mixed bag of feelings and stuff like that. Like, I was in the party originally where I did not feel like the first game needed a sequel. I was completely happy with the way the
That's
first game
interesting.
ended, and it was fine by me. But knowing, being a huge fan of Naughty Dog and everything that they do, I was just like, when they announced the sequel, I said, okay, if anyone's going to handle a sequel, reasonably well, it's going to be Naughty Dog. But obviously, I had to temper my expectations because
That's
everybody fails,
interesting.
everybody makes mistakes.
I don't think I've
So it
ever
just
heard that you weren't interested in a sequel. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that.
Well, it's like I've talked about it with a couple people before. When The Last of Us came out on PS3, I played through it one time.
Okay.
That was it. And when I got done with it, that was my experience. And it wasn't something I wanted to pick back up and jump back into. Not because of gameplay, not because of anything like that. Like, I felt like it was a bore or anything. It's like I wanted my one experience I had with it to be my experience.
Did
And
you
then
play
I
it
was
at
done with it.
did you play it at launch or did you play it later?
I played it at launch, but then
Okay.
I also got the remastered version just so I could play it for a few minutes and see what it looked like. But I didn't go back through it again. It's just like that first time I played through it on PS3 was my time, and that was what that was just it for me. I didn't feel like me. I like to hunt trophies and stuff like that, but I did not feel like trophy hunting this game. I felt like it was gonna ruin it for me.
Really? See, I
Yeah. So
for the first game, just real quick, I played through it at launch. I continued playing the because it had the factions that came out. So I was really, into the story. Played that through. I went for the trophies, then played the multiplayer, and I got the platinum trophy. And then I put it
nice.
down, and I didn't touch it again until, I had bought the remaster like you, and I never touched it on PS4 until recently. I had a friend Racer going for the platinum on PS4, so I jumped into some multiplayer with her, and it was really fun. And but yeah, besides that, I'm kind of in a similar way, but I did go for the platinum on PS3. Um, but that's crazy. I've never heard that anybody didn't want a sequel to the game. So you thought the story was finished, like as it was, you thought the story had a beginning, middle, and end in the first one.
It's not that I thought that that was how they wanted to wrap it up. It's just I felt like that's where it should have, at the time I felt that's where it should have ended. There was enough there for me to look at it and go, okay, and then leave everything else up to my imagination.
Okay, fair
Like, I
enough.
didn't feel like it warranted a sequel.
Fair enough.
But given all that, I really enjoyed The Last of Us Part Two. I really, really did. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I have some gripes, some major ones, minor ones, stuff like that. But beat for beat, the way it got presented, the way it was laid out, everything about it graphically, I thought it was incredible. I enjoyed every bit of it, except for a few minor little things, and some really gamey elements that it just kind of takes you out of the whole thing.
There
And
were,
we'll
yeah,
get more into that
there
here
were
in a little bit.
there were some cuz video game moments, but let me ask you
No.
something. So I really wanted to ask this early on, to kind of set the tone. Did
Mhm.
any of the spoilers spoil you? Did you see any of the spoilers before the game came out? Did you hear about them? Did you see any of them? Was anything spoiled for you?
I saw none of the spoilers.
So you were one of the very lucky ones that
Mhm.
didn't have the game spoiled for you. So
Yeah. As soon as something comes out that I am very excited for, whether it be, Star Wars, things like that, I put like all my social media, I put filters on everything, dude. And obviously there's gonna be some stuff that slips through the cracks, but I avoid it altogether. Like I've been Twitter free for weeks now. Like I
see,
really have not been on Twitter at all.
when the leaks came out, I think that before I even like realized what was going on, I was part of like the initial that day. Uh, I had seen a picture of Ellie on what looked like a movie theater or a theater floor dead. I saw a glimpse of it, turned it off, and then I heard there was all sorts of leaks, and I, set up the filters, everything, and I didn't see anything else. I avoided any other spoilers. Now, when I got to the part, which we'll talk about the beginning of the game and the middle and all that, but let me say that when I did get to that part that I saw Ellie on the floor in the theater, all that was it was a picture of when you screw up in the game and you die as Ellie. That's all it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I expected Ellie to die, and I was kind of waiting for it and expecting it, and so yeah. As far as the spoilers go, that's I guess I was lucky in a sense that I didn't see any spoilers to do with Joel. Now that the game's out and we gave the spoiler warning, we can we can
Yeah.
talk about it. So starting off with the beginning of the game, let's kind of dive into the start of the game. Where how did you feel about them showing where they were comfortable in Jackson? Everybody's living sort of like a comfortable, as normal of a life as they possibly could,
Yeah.
with everything going on. Uh, what did you think about how the game started off?
I was kind of really hesitant to really just jump in because I was expecting something terrible to happen right off the get go. Like I figured they were kind of gonna kind of follow the footsteps of
You were expecting
like in the
something
first game.
terrible. You were expecting
Yeah,
from the big. Okay, okay.
yeah, like in the first game, they set everything up and stuff like that, and his daughter gets shot and is killed. And I thought they were gonna kind of roll in with something like that. And obviously it dragged on for a little bit longer. There was a lot more setup that had to be in place in order for that to happen. So leading up to that big moment where it's the trigger event that really starts
So
the
how jarring
the
was it for
story
you?
process.
How jarring was it for you when they all of a sudden made you play as some, random character, some other girl? How jarring? Because for me, I absolutely did not expect it. I didn't know what was going on. I was confused. I think what I was feeling and what I was going through was exactly what they planned.
Okay. Well, I like I said, I was trying to temper my expectations, but there was some things that I was kind of predicting as we went along, like knowing something big was going to happen. Like they killed Joel, and and it was like, okay, I'm starting off angry because they killed off a beloved character, and they did it in such a violent fashion and everything and all that stuff. But it was like, it was one of those things like, how dare they, or how she, that kind of thing. It's like I wanted revenge. Like the people that were doing that, I wanted them to die. I was immensely sad, losing a beloved character like that. And then that right there was the point where I really started to process everything. It's like at that point there, because I remember when I played The Last of Us, the first game. a lot of the stuff was left up to imagination for me. Like I like to think about all the little things, that could be going on in the background when they're doing these things. I feel like people need to really step outside of it. I know you're going through an interactive experience. It's not like reading a book where it's all imagination, but you have to have some imagination when you're playing a game like this. You have to be able to think about all these different things, how awful that situation is, and really put together the whole thing. I mean, just because we love Joel and Ellie and their dynamic relationship, I mean, were you surprised that someone did that to him at all? I mean, he ruined a lot of lives in the first game if you really think
Well,
about it.
that brings me kind of to a question I have written down here was during while playing the first game, did you expect to have a feeling of Joel could be a bad guy? At the end of the first game, did you have that realization that wait a minute, Joel Miller is actually he's a bad person? Did you ever come to that conclusion?
I didn't ever settle on the idea that he was in fact a bad person, but there is a moment, like there's got to be a moment when you're playing that first game where you're like, man, he is like he has killed a lot of people.
Yep.
And if you're letting your imagination take over, if you're going through all this stuff and it's like you got to wonder, it's like, at what point does someone seek revenge against Joel?
Yes.
But it's obviously it's just a game, so you got to have those little gamey elements to it, and leaving it at that, you're comfortable with the fact that you've gone through and slaughtered hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people. You know what I mean? But having them start off the second game where it's like, okay, you know let's flesh out one character's reasoning behind tracking him down and making him pay for what he did to her. You know what I mean? And when it kicks off from that point there, I was fully engulfed in the story, and I was just, show me what you got, you guys. And I just going through beat for beat, playing as Ellie, and then having that complete transition into another character, a completely separate dynamic from Ellie. I mean, this strong, muscular, just brute woman. Like I felt like as taking over as Abby, like it seemed like she even moved quicker and more fluid and was more capable. You know what I mean? Because she was more physically fit,
Yes.
and it was so crazy to me. And it's like I liked that they did that, like flesh those characters out, because that's just a small little tidbit of like who else could have been mad at Joel? Who else had reasons to want him dead? That kind of thing, and then having Ellie go after Abby and try and seek revenge against something that was, like you have to have this thought in your head, like, is what Joel did to other people because you're attached to him and Ellie more okay because of that? Or, I mean, does Abby have a reason to want vengeance and to kill him? Like, is she more justified because of what's going on?
She can't stop us. You know what? I'm leaving tomorrow. And if you want to come with me, great.
So I immediately was able to just kind of jump over and really like latch on. Like I wanted to know why Abby went, what she went through to really get to that point. And I was understanding of the fact because Joel, he ruined lives, man. I mean, that's just the plain and simple fact. It's not that I hated him or anything like that, but it's like he kind of had it coming,
Yeah.
like as awful as that sounds. I mean, that's a brutal world that they're living in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was 100% expecting it to happen. It
So
felt like they were building right into it.
so playing through the game, I never came to that, thought or anything like that. It wasn't until I think at the time they were still working at IGN, that the guy Greg Miller,
Yeah.
they were doing an interview with the cast. Somewhere along the way, it was brought up that Joel is a bad guy, and that stayed with me. And
Mhm.
that stayed with me for a while, and it kind of it was just something that overall stayed with me and eventually turned into my understanding of wow, he is a bad guy. And so going into this game, how much they kind of explored that whole Ellie being pissed off at him and not being able to forgive him for, for taking her out of that hospital. She wanted to be that person that could have saved everybody, like a selfless type act where she feels that she really could have done some good, which, if you think about it in hindsight, there's only a small chance that it could have even gone well and they could have even made a cure from her. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a chance. There was no guarantees. The guy was, if I understood it correctly, he was a veterinarian. He wasn't a doctor or a surgeon. As far as I understood, Abby's father was a veterinarian. And so for him to do this brain surgery and come up with a cure, yeah, possible. They probably had, in the end of the first game, they had other doctors and other people involved and all that, but it was only a chance. So, but for her to, in her mind, she was the cure, and Joel took that away from her. And so her being so upset with him, I almost feel like that was one of the cause of video games moments, because at no point did she ever come to terms with, like, he did it to save your life. Like, it was never even brought up. Like, in real life, think about it. In real life,
Well,
that would have been a conversation part that came up. That would have been a topic that came up.
That actually, okay, so that actually did happen, but it was the scene towards the end where they're on the porch and
Yes,
she,
yeah. I
they had that
understand.
moment, him saying, like, if the Lord somehow granted me the
I'd do it
ability to
again.
do it all over again, I would do it again.
Yeah.
That's him saying, like, I love you. I would do it every single time because you mean that much to me.
Of
And
course.
her giving him that little bit back and saying, I don't think I can ever forgive you, but I'm willing to try.
Yeah.
That was that moment right there.
Okay, yeah,
As minor
I
as it
could
was,
see
but
that.
you gotta really, like, you got to read a lot, you don't really have to read a lot into it, but you got to know that that's what that was, because their relationship was always this hardened thing, like, look at the world that they live in. I mean, it's hard as shit, dude. I mean, and then you also have to think too, it's like, he started the whole thing, like, he saw it all happen and lost his daughter. But then in order to survive, he has to do some terrible, terrible things. So he puts up that shield, he puts up that wall,
Yeah.
But then he comes across this little girl, this smart mouth little girl that could potentially cure everybody. He doesn't know that at first, but then he goes through the whole process, But it's like, then he develops, like, he lets his guard down, and it's like, and he develops, like, okay, like, I want to find a place, for her to sustain life, and then also, move on and just retire from all this madness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And did that make him put his guard down? Is that why he was able to be, you know, did it make him more compassionate? That's why he went through and helped Abby and all that stuff, and it led to his demise and all that stuff. Possibly. I mean, is that something they would have to think about? I really don't know, but yeah, that whole situation was fleshed out right at the end, and that really meant a lot to me. Even in that small, brief moment, that few minutes, it's like when they finally came full circle at the end, and, like, that was one of the last few moments that they had where they made peace with each other over that fact. It was really nice seeing that at the end.
So let's talk a little bit about when the moment happened with Joel and Tommy. You're playing as Abby, which, like I said, was totally jarring to me, and I was not on board with it. Because I didn't know what was going on at that point. And then you realize, you get up to the mountain with Owen. That's kind of when you realize, she's looking for Joel, and playing as her, I didn't enjoy at first, because I just didn't understand it. So when they get into the garage after they were chased, they were chased down and everything in the blizzard, and they get into the garage and they're standing there, and Tommy's, I'm Tommy and this is my brother.
You two live nearby?
We do. A few hours down the hill. Y'all should come back with us, restock before you head out.
Appreciate it. I'm Mel, by the way.
Tommy. This is my brother.
Joe.
Oh boy.
Y'all act like you heard of us or something.
Because they have.
What the hell? And everybody's like looking at him like, holy crap. And then she blows his knee out with the shotgun.
Yeah.
Like,
At that point there, I realized it was over.
I lost my mind at that point. I was like losing it, man. I was just absolutely losing it.
Yeah.
And so, automatically I knew Ellie was going to come, but I thought she was going to rescue him. I didn't think that she was going to come and watch him take his final breath. And, it was just, that was a brutal scene. And I'm glad. So there was an interview, again, Greg Miller, he did an interview with the cast again for this game the other day, which is an interview I think everybody should watch on Kind of Funny. I think it's a huge, it's major insight into the mind of the whole cast, and
Yeah.
But it talks about that moment, and they talked about giving the players control. Somebody mentioned, I think somebody asked, did they think about giving the control to the player to kill Joel? And I was thinking, I would hate that.
Oof.
That would be too much. That would be
awful.
too much. I think it was more in line with the story they were, the direction. I think it was more powerful, I guess I'm trying to say, doing it the way they did it. Because I think that if they would have made us kill Joel, I think that would have been too much for some players. I think some players may have quit. Some players may have not come back to the game.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So
I feel like I'm on the bottom end of the thought process on there. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I adore Joel, and and I adore Ellie and all that stuff. But it's like, I went into it a little bit differently. Where when that happened, obviously I was angry, at first, and I was upset, tremendously sad. But then I came to a part of understanding, okay, that was obviously supposed to get me all fired up and stuff like that. It's like, but let me see what they've got. Why did it have to come to this point? And I started processing everything and going through the whole thing. It's like, he, like I said, he did messed up stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody was bound to come after him. And, going through that whole thing and then having what I really want to talk about is after Ellie sets out to really just, to seek her revenge. I mean,
oh yeah.
That whole
that's
part,
that's
as
what I was
she's going.
That's what I was getting to. I was getting to the whole motivation. Was that what you saw with them killing off Joel? Was that enough to, in your mind, was that enough to go, to go after them just blindly?
Yeah.
Was
Absolutely.
it fair? A question I wanted to ask was it fair of her to let Dina come with her?
Well, I mean, I think that was part of the whole video gamey thing kind of really stepping in, because I think it was it was chosen more as a game element because having the companion and all that stuff, and they're still walking you through everything. You know what I mean? You're not going solo because you're not ready for a solo venture quite yet. You got to go through the whole thing. You got to have that support, to figure out all the different elements of the game and everything. I think it feels like to me that was part of it.
Yes, that's my. I'm in line with you on that. I don't think that she probably wouldn't have let Dina come with her just because she knows her skill set and she knows Dina probably wasn't ready for what she was about to go do. Just judging by her reactions, Dina's reactions to things while they were still near Jackson, and so I think that she shouldn't have, but because of video games, because it is a video game, Dina going. So yeah, I mean, did you like how they skipped from Jackson to Seattle? Was that okay with you, or would you have rather? Because in the first game we did a lot of traveling. That was the main difference, I would say, one of the main differences between the two games is there wasn't much traveling. We were in locations for days rather than months. And the first game we had different seasons. The second game we're in 3 days, 2 times, basically. Yeah. So were you okay with them skipping time, or did you even notice it?
Yeah, well, okay. So as soon as that whole situation with Joel happened, then she went to set out on her quest for revenge. Um, you know that there's pages and pages of story that follows that. You know what I mean? So it's like they have to be very careful and what they drag you through and what they just kind of move past. And then it's like, okay, what's going to be the meatiest portion of this that people are going to get the most enjoyment and the most story out of? So having them fast forward me to a certain point was fine. I didn't mind it. I really don't want to trudge from area to area to area, encountering small groups of enemies that I can either stealth around or get into a huge firefight with. I mean, that's one of the things I didn't really enjoy the most. Towards the end of the game, when I got to certain sections, it's like, okay, this feels like I'm going to go into an area. Oh, yep, there's enemies. Oh shit! Now I have to sneak around them. Now I have to do this. It's like I got kind of frustrated with that whole rinse and repeat routine.
Yeah, I do.
And
I totally do.
so I'm glad they didn't stretch all that stuff out and make us go through that whole process, because the game would have been
See,
so
here's my
long.
thought. Here's my thought on it. Here's my thought on it. I think that they gave in to the thought of it's going to be too hard, because think about it like this.
Yeah.
Think about even when it comes to PlayStation trophies. That in conversations we had that I played the game as a stealth game, and
Yeah.
and I started at it was a personal choice, and once I was dug into it, it was partially my craziness with video games, my OCD tendencies and all that, but I just think the game was meant to be played where if you could play it either stealth or go all out, blow everything up, shoot everything, firebomb, Molotov, everything. And I do believe that originally there was meant to be a stealth playthrough trophy set. I really honestly do, because of the way the game is designed and how many of those encounters we have where we go into an area and it's a little sandbox, neighborhood, and you got, patrols around and everything like this. And the reason I say that is because when we're playing as Abby and we get into that one fight at the gas station and those Humvees come rushing in and they get called in and they come to help, this and that.
Yeah.
So they came in because of gunshots. There's always gunshots. That was the only. You're telling me that's the only time that backup came in. That's part of why it goes back to it because of video games, But I strongly believe
there was a lot of those too.
I strongly believe that there was supposed to be. I mean, why else would we have that type of? Why else would those levels, those sandbox neighborhood areas be set up as they are if it wasn't meant? If you were meant to just go in balls to the wall, then they wouldn't have been designed like that. They're designed like that so that you can stealth for no reason? No, I just don't buy it. My honest opinion is that there was a big stealth element in it, designed for it, and it was too hard, so they pulled back on it. I really think that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I kind of feel like you're right in that aspect too, because I mean, if you look at the stealth aspect to it, it was really good the way you could do certain things, move through the grass, stuff like that. But then, it's like if you're not using listen mode constantly, then I remember a bunch of different times, and this shit drives me nuts. Where I'll be up somewhere and I'll use listen and I'll analyze the footpaths of all the different guys, and I'll sit there for a while and watch them take the same routine over and over again. And I'll move to a different location. Maybe it's down one level or maybe around a corner, and their whole routine will change. A couple of times it got to the point where I'm sitting there and I stealth kill somebody, and then all of a sudden I look up and every single person is now gravitating towards that location.
Yeah.
Not because they heard me, not because they saw me. They're just
100%.
drawn to that location by
totally
some
agree.
Fucking
totally
crazy
agree,
bullshit magic, dude. It's okay, that's the stuff that's frustrating to
yes.
me, but at that point there, it's okay, fine. I guess we're going balls to the wall, man. And I just went ham, cleared the area, and it's I didn't feel any sort of pleasure out of it. It's I wanted the whole situation to be, methodical.
Yeah. What?
If
That's
you're gonna go
why,
through this whole
dude.
thing, like I want
I'm
it to be
telling you, man.
methodical.
I'm telling you, like obviously the listeners, anybody listening doesn't know this, but I played it like it was a stealth game, and I played it where I told you this, I was telling you in Oxus, I spent a whole entire day on that one area, which I found out was a slice of the game that they used for a demo. The whole area where, okay, so you get the bow, and then you jump over the wall, and you're in a neighborhood that leads you up to the moment where you jump down and Jesse grabs you by the mouth and keeps you quiet until that Humvee comes
That
by.
I want to talk about that shit too, because they misled us.
Yes, with Joel in the marketing. Yeah, so you saw that. Yeah, okay. So that was a big thing and a reason why some people were pissed off that they misled us. No, that's marketing. That's marketing 101.
I know, but
I don't have a
to
problem
their
with
credit,
that.
to their credit, why would they show that if not only to directly guide you in a certain direction? You know what I mean? Like, they did not have to show a piece like that. They could have been giving us a little tidbits, the little tiny little bits of information, and left it at that. They showed that intentionally to
Of
get you to
course.
think that Joel, and it's like,
100%.
so I understand why people are upset, but when I got to that point, I'm like, like the only thing I said, I was like, oh, you fuckers.
This is why
is
why I'm not upset at all with Neil Druckmann, the whole entire I'm not upset at all with the decisions they made, because this Joel Miller is not a real life character. He is a character from a story that is written. There needs to be a beginning, a middle, and an end, or it is pointless. Okay, so
there's got to be some motivating factor there.
Yes.
And Joel was the motivating factor.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate, but like I said, like as much as I was attached to the first game, having Joel die in the second game was obviously sad and it was awful.
It needed to happen. It needed to happen for the story to progress.
Yeah. I mean,
and it was
if they were going to do it,
it was the only character besides Ellie.
This is how they should have done it.
It was the only character besides Ellie that they could have killed off to make it as powerful. Period. Yeah. And you can't be mad at them for killing off a fake character to progress their story. I'm sorry, but it doesn't make sense to be mad at them for that. It doesn't.
And that's why I gave them the benefit of the doubt when they announced they were doing a sequel, and I'm like, okay, if anyone's going to do it, Naughty Dog's going to do it right. You know what I mean? And it's like they're not afraid to do that kind of stuff. They're not afraid to play with your emotions and to really strike at you, like where it really hurts the most. That's ballsy, man. That takes guts.
It takes
for them to do something like that, especially to do it at the start of the game. That's insanity.
Totally 100% on board. I mean, the internet's gonna do the internet. There's gonna be people that are outrageously mad because they want to be, and they don't even care about the game, and they're not even they're not even gonna play the game. They never had intentions to, but they're gonna just walk all over it because that's the internet. So
that's fine. Like they're the like a lot of us that have actually played the game, experienced it, and enjoyed it, and really have time to analyze it. Like if you enjoyed the game, great. If you didn't like the game, fine. I mean, that's fine.
I will say
I don't really feel bad for, but like you have a lot of people that didn't actually play the game. I mean, what the hell was it? Like Metacritic, user reviews were terrible.
That's becoming
but it's
out of control.
Did you seriously? Did you play the game start to finish for 20 plus hours as soon as it released? And then, I mean, come on, get out of here, dude. Stop wasting your time.
That's what I'm saying. That I don't care. What internet is it's gonna do what the internet's gonna do, and I think that they need to start realizing that this is kind of the norm that we are heading. The normal way things are headed. It's been an ongoing thing.
This game is. Like, as I get older, I'm looking for stuff like this. It's like you know me. I like to play, the shooters, a quick, fun experience, stuff like that. But and I've always been more of a single player guy. But like this right here, this is the kind of game I'm really looking for. I'm looking for developers to really just kind of just take it to you. I mean,
Yeah.
bring that emotion on. You know what I mean? Like I'll tell you, like when I like a lot of my family, they don't really understand why I play video games all the time. And
Same.
it's like the point of contention all the time.
Same.
They obviously, it's like they don't really care anymore. They don't bother me with it anymore. I'm 34 years old. I'm set in my ways. I'm going to play video games. That's one of those things I tell them all the time, But it's like every single time I play the opening scene for The Last of Us for them, they are they're completely silent. They're glued to their seats, and they're looking at this thing with tears in their eyes, going like, "That was like watching a movie." It's like, and I'm like, this is what video games can be right here. This is what you experience all the time. Like, it doesn't matter what game you're playing. And like, I like the fact that for The Last of Us 2, they went above and beyond to really just tear your freaking heart out, and really just dive in. I mean, you look at all these other TV shows and stuff. I mean, like the one thing people always gave credit for was on Game of Thrones. Like no one was safe. The Walking Dead, no one was safe. They'd kill anybody at any given point in time, and everyone would watch it, be freaked out, and then move on with their lives. Why can't people do that with this? Why are people so attached to this one character that it ruins a great experience for them?
I think there's a lot mixed in with that. I think, my opinion, is totally, I think there's a lot of people that hate PlayStation as a brand that are wrapped into all that want to see it fail. That's my opinion on it. I think that the hate goes deeper than just it being a character, but that's
and it's so gross, man.
Talking about showing your family that first, scene for The Last of Us. The week before Last of Us 2 came out, I showed that to my mom, and same reaction. This is it's like a movie, and I think her seeing that gave her an appreciation for why I play video games, why I love these. And then yesterday I gave her the quick breakdown of what happened in The Last of Us 2. She's never going to play it, but I gave her the breakdown, and she was just like, wow, so yeah, I mean, I totally get that with the family thing. But they'll play Candy Crush for hours on end on their break. I mean?
Oh, dude, I throw that in people's faces all the time. Gamer, you're doing it right now.
Yep.
No, it's not the same thing.
All right, so let's get back.
We better get back into this. Yeah.
So we're in Seattle, and we start off with day one, and we're with Dina, and we're going through the buildings, and we're clearing out different buildings. What did you think about that opening area? Was the
what happened with that?
So what moment was it that because it felt like that was a completely different shift. So we got to Seattle day one, and as soon as we got into that little area, that first little area with the broken down highway and the broken down buildings and the Jewish synagogue, that seemed like a totally different area. And it wasn't until that bomb went off in the middle of the road that I felt like, okay, we're back into it. Like that good hour of game for me, 2 hours of gameplay.
Yeah,
it was different.
I feel like I was tricked. You know what I mean? Like they probably had thought of many ways to kind of handle that situation to really lead you into it. Because I mean, if you're playing the game and you're coming off of the first game, you're expecting there to be something around every single corner. So did they do that open world area at the start? Just to get you comfortable with wandering around.
Yes, I think it was purposely
done. That way you'd
done.
wander in, and then all of a sudden you would shit yourself when that bomb went off.
Did you speaking of that first area, did you get the optional cutscene with the song?
I don't know that I did.
Oh, you probably missed it. So that's a big subject that I heard, people complaining about. Why would you keep such an important scene out of the game? Make it only optional. It's like because it's an Easter egg. It's something special. She goes into the guitar store. She finds a guitar and she plays the song that Joel taught her, which I didn't know if you knew that.
Okay.
And it, and like Neil Druckmann said, if 33% or a third of people play that it doesn't matter because those people are going to tell their friends. It's going to live on YouTube, and he's happy with that. It's
See,
an Easter egg.
I did actually experience that.
I thought that was awesome. I thought that was an awesome part, and that'll play into probably the end of this conversation. That song and
Oh,
everything.
that's cool.
Well, nothing sure sounds nice.
Remember that night by the bonfire?
Yeah.
Hey, so sorry to interrupt. This is Futurize. I'm actually currently re-editing this video because after posting it to YouTube, I received a copyright claim for this song. So sadly, we're going to have to pull this portion of the video. But I got another awesome song for you, so enjoy. And click those like and subscribe buttons. On with the music.
I put butter on a Pop-Tart. It was so freaking good. Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? If you haven't, then I think you should.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool that they did that. So yeah, we kind of, that open area, it kind of threw me for a loop. Like, what the heck's going on? There's no souls around here. There's no humans anywhere around. What the heck is going on?
Nobody to fight. Nothing. They were putting you in that little groove, man. Like,
very little infected. They were kind of
get comfortable. You know?
Yes, they were tricking you. This is going to be a breeze. So then we get to that part with the bomb. Dina gets separated.
Yep.
You get taken away by is it Owen and his lieutenant? Or no, it's just Owen and another lieutenant. And they're talking to you. Dina saves you, and you escape out of there. Eventually making it through the subway, which was creepy as hell, and I don't do good with scary stuff, and I don't do good with horror, so that was my first taste, the subway area of what the heck. So I actually played that where I don't know how you played that area, but I saw there was infected there while there were soldiers creeping around, so I alerted the infected, and they took out all the soldiers for me.
Yeah. See, I had watched one of their trailers or their things that they did and stuff like that. They had talked about the ability to use the infected against the
that was my I didn't know.
Like
I mean, I figured it was a thing, but that was my first experience with it in this game.
So
obviously.
I did not want to at all, but it actually played out a little differently. So like, I ended up getting messed up by a clicker at that point because the way I did it, they all congregated in an area near me, and then I was just like, oh shit. And then like one got too close to me and it actually killed me. So I'm like, oh fuck, I'm gonna do this a little bit differently. But then it was weird because like it reset to the checkpoint, but it was like it was a checkpoint where all the guys were dead and all the clickers were in their original locations, and I was able to just walk right through. So it's like that kind of ruined it for me.
See, did you? So you walk through. Are you able to leave an area with clickers alive?
Yes.
See, I'm not able to.
If I feel like I've been, like unless I'm dying for resources, you know what I mean? It's like because you have a chance to get decent resources off of them and stuff like that. Unless I'm dying for resources, I didn't really feel like it was necessary for me to kill everything.
So I just I wasn't able to leave an area. That just plays into my, I got OCD going on. I mean, I'm not like touching door handles when I not door handles, but there are certain things like sandpaper. I don't know. So I guess I do have more OCD tendencies than I'd like to admit, but. Especially in video games, man. I just can't leave an area with, if there's a clicker alive, if there's a soldier alive, I have to play it through, and that goes into why it took me several days longer to beat the game than all of you guys. I just, like I said, I spent the whole entire afternoon on one area, just because I kept on alert and, this one or two soldiers or a dog or something, so I'd restart the whole area. So it just that goes into how I was playing the game. But so where we left off was basically we were making our way through day one. We found after the subway, we made our way to the theater, which turned into our home base. And day 2 is when you run into Jesse.
Yeah.
You bring Jesse back with you. What did you think about how they introduced Jesse back into it? I thought it was fine. It played out fine.
Yeah, like I enjoyed the way they laid everything out. You know what I mean? How they progressed the story, what they wanted to tell, what they wanted to leave up to imagination and all, and all that stuff. So at any point in time, did you feel like you were starting to actually like side with Abby at all?
Okay,
Or like
so
at no point
all right,
did
so we did talk about this the other day. I absolutely hated Abby. So after, early on we play as Abby, I don't know what's going on, but by the time we get to Seattle and stuff, obviously we know all about Abby. And when they force you to, so we get to day 3 with Seattle with Ellie, and everything that happens. Abby shows up, she puts a bullet in Jesse's face and puts a bullet in Tommy's face, and then they force us to play as Abby. I had to shut the game off. That's the night that I shut the game off, that moment.
Cool. Okay. That's okay.
I shut the game off at that moment, and I spent all day the next day thinking about it, being pissed off at them forcing me to play as Abby. I did not like her one bit, and the fact that she was so brutally huge totally threw me off. It wasn't just that I hated her because of what she did and everything. It was, I absolutely hated the character model. They made her way too big, and that's why I had asked Ox. I said, do they explain anywhere why she is so big? And he had said, yeah. So I thought they actually verbally explained it, which, to be fair, at one point she's talking to Owen, one of the flashbacks, and she says, I bench pressed 170 pounds today, and he giggles, he laughs. And that was when she was younger. They were still young. It was a couple years before, but she was starting to get big. And then when we're playing as her, Seattle, day 1 for Abby, we're forced to go to their base, the Wolf's base, and they show this giant,
you see, like,
world-class
the
gym, and that is when you realize, they have a gym. This is what I put 2 and 2 together. They don't tell you, but you got to think about it. They're soldiers. They're all about working out, and they don't really have much else to do. You got to think there is steroids being used. It's not talked about, but it's an obvious thing in a world like this. The characters, to stay alive, they need to be the most best in shape soldier that they can be. Like, she is 100% on steroids. I don't care who you are.
You think so?
There is no reason for her to be that big besides that. She is on something, I'm telling you. Because she is freaking huge, and it's off-putting, and I absolutely hated her character because of it. I hated the way she looked, all burly, running, and I could not stand her as a character. And, it just was totally off-putting to me. I just hated playing as her at first. And,
I thought it was fine. I came into more of like a, holy shit, okay. It's like, typically when you play games and stuff like that, I mean, like your female leads and the characters you play as females and stuff like that are more of a sexualized version. Like they're small, they're petite, they're very capable.
Yes,
but it's like
it was different.
An explanation behind it. For Abby, it was like, okay, she's a woman, and she has put work in, and she has bulked herself up for this terrible world. And
that's
she
where
basically made it so and it came down to like the gameplay where she felt like she was more physical, like when I encountered something, I had to use a melee weapon, I felt like Abby was going to do more damage with it, and it was awesome, dude. I thought that was such a cool fucking dynamic to have that. But where you got like Ellie is smart, complex, and stealthy. Yes. You have Abby that could be stealthy, but she's also brute strength. If she found herself in a pickle, she could freaking, body slam her way out of it. And that was so fucking cool to me, man. I really thought the way they portrayed her character, it was done really well. And just
So
like, and for me, seeing the gym at their base was enough for me to be like, oh fuck, that's why she's so goddamn ripped. You
yeah,
know, like
yeah. I
that
mean
was it.
that made me understand it, but I was still at that point waiting for them to have a conversation about why she was big, and I thought that was that was an opportunity that they could have explained it for her. They could have had a little side conversation there, or whatever, optional conversation, whatever, between her and Manny, you know, about something. I think it would have. But at the same time, like, I don't want to sound like sexist or anything. Of course, a girl can be as big as she wants. You know, she can work out, and you know, I'm not saying anything like that. But I just, it was very jarring for me. It took me until probably around the time you're in. So you are traveling, and you meet these two characters, Yara and Lev, and
Yep.
you know, their story is basically Lev was born a young girl.
Yara's a girl.
Well, Yara is the girl, but Lev was born a girl, and Lev told his sister, "I feel like I am a boy." And that's when he had shaved his head, and Yara, his older sister, you know, had told him to keep the feelings to himself, which we learn about later on. And
Yeah.
so
Shaving his head and all that.
yeah,
stuff.
so he shaved his head, and that's why the scars, which that's not their official name, but that's why they basically were after them, because he shaved his head, because Lev shaved his head and wanted to be who he is, and they weren't standing for that. It was, you know, not allowed in their religion. So Yara and Lev, they're on off on getting away, and Abby has a soft spot. She's kind of coming around to she has a heart. Abby has a heart, and
yeah, and I liked that for her, because it's like you spend the first part of the game just really hating this character.
yes,
And for them to be like, but wait, there's more. You know what I
yes,
mean? And have them flesh out this character. I mean, you think about the introduction to like Joel and Ellie's relationship and stuff like that, and everything they've gone through. I mean, your hand was held that entire time.
yeah,
Naughty Dog had a much harder battle when it came to Abby and fleshing her character out. Whereas, like, okay, they made the active decision to make you hate her right off the get go, but then they were able to kind of take a bunch of people like myself and turn them around and be like, and make them realize that Abby wasn't really in the wrong there. I mean, it's a freaking terrible world they live in. Joel destroyed her world and screwed up everyone else's lives. Abby has a mad, so it's like, okay, I started to feel, you know, more
well, that's
empathetic.
so that's what I was getting
Abby's
to.
cause.
That's what I was getting to. So I absolutely hated her guts. I mean, I'm telling you, I did not want to play as her. It was I have you know, I recorded my entire gameplay, and there's moments like I listened and I watched it back where I'm talking to the TV saying I don't want to play. Like I was sitting there talking out loud like, I don't want to play this right now. Like, I just did not. I didn't. It wasn't until we're in the hospital. So the whole reason I was talking about Yara and Lev was because we meet them and we need to go get supplies at the hospital because Yara's arm got messed up, whatever. So we're in a hospital, and there are these infected down there, and we get introduced to this giant monster when you crawl in the back of an ambulance. No. Oh my God. What the heck was that thing? Oh my God! What is that? Oh my god! It got me!
Wasting my time.
You can't kill it! Oh! Holy crap! What was that thing? This giant monster that's consisted of what are the new ones called? It's not a bloater. It's
Oh my God.
what are they called? They're not bloaters. They're shoot. It's to
I
my
don't
tongue.
remember, but
It's an infected, and it's got multiple other infected that are grown. The cordyceps have fused them together, so it's this giant monster with like 5 different infected attached to it with 10 different arms.
they're just fused together.
They're fused together,
But,
and it's
dude,
this
you
burly
totally
thing.
ruined that moment for me.
How?
Like, inadvertently, you ruined that moment for me.
How?
Like, I'm not gonna say ruined it. I'm just gonna say you kind of like.
You were ahead of me though.
Because I know, but like we hadn't talked about this game, and I desperately wanted to message about this, but I couldn't do it. But what had happened was you had messaged me on Discord talking about how like it was scaring the shit out of you.
Yes.
Like some of the parts in the game. So like knowing what I know about, knowing that you don't do well with scary games, which is awesome, by the way. I mean, like don't like I'm not teasing you about that. Just
No,
so you know.
it's fine.
Like,
It's fine.
no, that actually makes for better reaction if I'm being honest. But anyways, when that moment happened and that creature showed itself, the only thing I could think of was, oh shit, Rise is gonna shit his pants. So it kind of took that whole first moment allure away from the whole situation. At that point, I realized I needed to scramble and fight this thing. But like the first thing that popped in my head was, oh my god, Rise is gonna shit his pants. And like going through that whole moment, and like realizing what's happening, it's like, oh fuck, I need to run, gotta pop and shoot, I gotta do this, I gotta do
So I didn't ruin the moment, like I spoiled it for you. You were thinking about me while you were going through it.
Yeah, because of the fact that like popped up, I'm like, oh my god, this guy has no idea what's coming for him down the pipeline. You know what I mean? Like it startled me, dude. It startled me. Like, and I don't jump easily. I mean, my kids try and scare me all the time. I mean, like we watch scary movies all the time. Nothing ever happens. I don't jump scare easily. That startled me. That got my heart rate going a little bit. And that was awesome of Naughty Dog to do that. It's like having that moment, that complete unexpected moment. Like, so far what kind of infected you're going to encounter. And then all of a sudden this big bumbling beast is in front of you. And you're like, how
Well,
do
so
I deal with
so
this,
to talk a little bit more about that one scene. When you get down into that basement, there's if you scan, you see a big thing like one of those bloater type things, whatever they are, they give the poison off.
Listen mode?
Yes, use and listen.
The fuck is that? I guess it's down to the surgical suites.
Oh, it's a frickin' giant bloater looking thing. You see it when you first get down there, and then you don't see it again. You don't see it again until that ambulance. And I'm walking up to that ambulance, talking to the TV, that I didn't want to do this.
Happen.
Yes. And, dude, it scared the living hell out of me, man. Yeah. I mean, dude,
like that, I knew something was coming, but it still took me off guard, and it was just like so funny that I went to that Rise is gonna shit his pants,
Dude.
And I started thinking about it, but it's like, man, they did such a good job with that. Like all those little things they did that were just kind of off the cuff and just like out of there, different from like the original game. I mean, I like their decisions that they make. Like, I mean, you're talking they made you so comfortable with the way the infected layout was in the first game. It's like now more time has passed, so somebody had to have the conversation of like, well, I mean, what if the mutation just gets worse?
And
How bad do you want to get with? Like, do you want them to be ridiculously crazy mutations? Like, was this the craziest that they went with it?
let's talk about, because we have another introduction in this game with the Stalkers,
Yeah.
and the Stalkers, unless you hear them make the little tiny grunts they make,
Yeah.
you can't see them most of the time on your vision or whatever. So you can only imagine how I did with areas with those. You can only
Oh, I
imagine how tough of a time I had with those. And dude, there was a couple times, man. I'm telling you, there was a couple nights where I had to shut the game off because it was 3-4 in the morning, and I mean, I'm a grown man, and it's a situation where I'm that scared where I have to shut a game off and wait to play the next day during the day.
Yeah.
Like, that's how bad
That's
it is
awesome.
for me. And yeah, so I really they did such a good job there that it made me hate those parts. And when I was saying earlier that I absolutely hated this game, at certain
Those
parts,
are the moments.
those are the biggest moments that I would say that I hated. Besides playing it. So, talking about all this, I guess to wrap it up, the whole reason we even were talking about this part was because we started talking about my feelings on Abby. So I did come around, and that's the part. So when I was scared with Abby like that, and how she came out of it, and just how she was getting back to everything to do with Owen, and everything to do with Mel, her relationship with Mel, and how she was kind of that leader of the group. I totally came around on her to the point where I can't even believe I'm saying this, but I actually like Abby as a character, and I do want to see more of her. So that leads me to my next question.
We are on the same page.
Go ahead.
We are on the same page here.
Yeah, totally.
Like Abby's story points, everything about like what she was doing and stuff like that. I enjoyed Abby's moments in the game more than I enjoyed Ellie.
Yeah,
even with my attachment to
I'm not
Ellie's
quite
stuff.
there, but yeah, I'm with you. I mean, as far as liking her, yeah.
Yeah, the reason why I kind of took that route is because Joel and Ellie are already established characters.
Yes.
Like we spent an entire game playing as, we know the relationship, we know the feelings there, so to bring in Abby as this titular character where she just kind of throws everything for a loop and makes everyone, like they could have taken the easy route where they were just like introduce Abby and she's just like this other character in the game that you play as. Abby had to do something big. She had to do something grand. She killed Joel, one of the most beloved characters in the game. So they chose to start you off hating Abby, and then they also turned around in the story and made you appreciate her her drive, and made you
made you
just
understand her,
feel compassion, because like Joel and Ellie weren't the only elements in the story. They're not the only people in this world that are struggling and going through bullshit.
Yeah,
Abby went through all this stuff too, and that's just one character in the whole thing. And having her friends with her and stuff like that, it's like, and it also comes down to like as Ellie is seeking revenge, she's realizing what revenge costs. What part of your soul does revenge steal from you? You know what I mean? And when she goes through and she kills Owen and Mel, and she has that breakdown, and Tommy comes across her and stuff like that. That's like the point where she really absorbs the idea of revenge. Like it really starts taking a toll on her. She's like, I just killed a man, and I just killed a woman who was pregnant, trying to bring life into this world, because no matter how shitty the world gets, you still have to move on. You still have to make some sort of normal thoughts, and you have to have some sort of normal reason to really make everything go through. And this lady was pregnant, and she killed her only because she was associated with Abby, and that was it. And that takes a huge toll on Ellie. And dude, that was just like insane. That was one of the most gut wrenching moments for me when
Oh,
she
big
when
time.
she found out that Mel was pregnant.
Big time.
It was like, dude, oh my god, man.
That
Like,
was the beginning of, to me, that was the beginning of the feelings that I started to have towards Ellie. Not that I don't like her as a character, not that I was not in agreeing with her motives. It was the moment that I started feeling like maybe she should start slowing down and
yeah, that point
looking.
where you're trying to tell her like you're going down the wrong.
Yes.
You're going down the wrong.
Even
Revenge is
maybe
not
not.
worth it, you know what I
maybe
mean?
not. You are maybe just start. You got to start questioning what you're doing, because this is this is out of control. Like there may have been another way to do this.
Yeah.
And I think the whole time, the whole problem with all this is Ellie met Joel at such an impressionable age, and what she grew up in and what she watched Joel. She only knows what she was taught by Joel. So this whole time she is doing what Joel would have did. She is. She is not acting as her own person. She's acting she is, but she's only doing what she knows because of what she was taught. So, that's why I'll get to it at the end, but that's what I think, to me, the ending means. So basically wrap up that part. That scared the crap out of me. I came around on Abby, totally on board with her character. When all of our characters come back together at the end of day 3 for Abby, we get back to that point where it was the end of day 3 for Ellie, and we have everybody. Like I said earlier, Abby pops Tommy. She pops what's his name in the face, Jesse. Then she pops Tommy.
She killed Jesse.
I thought she killed Tommy. I think everybody did.
Nope,
then
because they did it so quickly. They did it so quickly in that moment where they're just like bam, and then you see the blood come out, and then they go away from it. I'm like, for a second, I'm like, damn, they did Tommy dirty.
Hands up. Back away from your shit. I said back up!
You're making a big mistake.
Don't fucking turn around. Now keep your bow on. Get on the ground.
You gonna kill me like a coward?
You fucking people.
oh my god.
Stand up! Hands in the air, I shoot this one too.
Don't you do it, Ellie. Get out of here.
Stand up! Now!
Don't you fucking dare!
Shut the fuck up!
Jesus.
All right, stop! Stop! Toss your weapon. Toss your weapon!
No.
I know why you killed Joel. He did what he did to save me. There is no cure because of me. I am the one that you want. Just let him go. You killed my friends. We let you both live. And you wasted it. Wait! Get off of her!
Oh my god. Yeah, I totally thought he was dead. I totally thought he was.
But then I was just like, there's no way. There's no way. They're not gonna do Tom.
Yeah, I totally thought
he was always the character. He was always the character that was kind of like the offset, like the balance in between everything, which brings me to one of my biggest points of contention, which we'll talk about towards the end of it. But with Tommy, like that whole moment where there's like she's just like blam, you see the blood and then it just pans away and then you go into the whole moment. Like that was, oh dude, when it built up to that point, like
Well, this is
okay,
why.
so like when it switches to Abby from the moment where you storm out, Jesse drops in front of you, and Abby is sitting there with Tommy on the floor, and she tells you, she's like, "We let you guys live, and you
You
ruined it." You know
wasted
what I
it.
mean?
You wasted it.
Yeah, you wasted it, and then bam, all of a sudden you're playing as Abby, and then you build up to that whole thing from there, dude. I was like, "Oh my god, this is insane! I cannot wait to see what this
Well,
develops into."
I
And then
thought
they
the game
have
was
all
over
that
there.
character development.
I thought the game was
No, they
done.
do. Oh no, no way. No. This is the first part. The first part. The first time it happened, and then you switch to Abby from there.
No, no. Oh yeah,
Then
yeah,
we
yeah.
build.
Yes. Then we go as
build
Abby.
in that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Then we play as Abby. We build in that point, and then we get to the end or towards the end or whatever, where all of a sudden you're standing in front of the theater, and you're like, "Holy shit! This is it. This is the point where we come full circle around."
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Which was really
And
cool how they did that.
yeah, so it's like now I'm gonna go in. I'll see how it all unfolded before that moment, and then just to watch Ellie run out the door and to see Jesse just take a shot to the face, and he drops, and then her moment of like, where she like throws the gun away. She's like, "Fuck," and like she just kind of concedes. It's like, dude, it's such a powerful moment at that point where, like, Abby, you've done all this character development. You've gone through this whole thing with her. Like at that point there, you come to a really conflicting moment. It's like like you know and love Ellie. Like you know her as a character. You know her purpose. But then you get to that point with Abby, and you're like, oh my God, she's coming to the point where she's finally getting clarity on the
Well, at
whole
this
thing.
point,
It's
this
like,
is the point where I thought that Ellie was going to die because remember at this
yeah,
point, all I saw was that one leak, a picture of Ellie dead on the theater floor. So
yeah.
when we're chasing Ellie down through the theater, back behind the curtain, and you go into, let me ask you something. That first time when we first, so the back of the theater where Abby and Ellie fight. The first time you walk through that as Ellie, tell me you didn't look at that area and be like, "Oh, this is going to be like there's going to be some kind of fight in here," just because of the way everything was set up, the
100%,
boxes.
100%.
Yes, dude. I was like, something's going down here.
And
Yes.
you go through and you're like, this is a boss arena if I've
Yeah.
ever fucking seen one in a video
Dude.
game in my
Yes.
entire life, dude.
100%.
I knew there was going to be a fight there.
100%. So that's why. So knowing what I saw in the leak, and we're chasing, I'm like, I cannot believe we're about to kill Ellie. I cannot believe it. And
I did not. It's, as much as I was understanding of Abby, I did not want to fight Ellie.
me neither.
One.
Did you try?
because
Did you try to fail?
I did once.
Me too.
One, because I knew the drive and the determination, from Abby and stuff like that, and two, because I didn't really honestly believe that Ellie was going to survive a close quarters battle against Abby.
Me neither. She's
Hands
too big.
down. Yeah, if I figured if Abby got a hold of Ellie, she was just going to destroy her. But then you
Yes.
start going through and seeing, like, you see Ellie plant traps, and you're like, oh, you sneaky little fuck. Like, like everything that you should have been doing throughout
Yes,
the game,
that
they're
you would have been doing.
They're rubbing it in your face. Like,
Yep.
here you go. Like, oh my
I
God.
love that moment.
My
love
heart
that
was
moment, dude.
pounding, man.
I
It
hated
was just
and loved that
pounding.
moment so much. It was like I was being torn apart so much because watching Ellie do that stuff, like you're saying, putting down the bombs and stuff. I was like, dude, I would be doing the same thing. Like, so
I'm sitting here whispering, like, you little bitch. No way.
So how it all ended at that moment, I thought it was the end of the game. That's what I thought. I thought that was the end of the game at that moment when that all concluded in the back of the theater there. What did you think?
It wasn't enough for me. So, like, it wasn't that I thought that it was not the end. It's the fact that I'm like, they better not end it right here.
I was just left with a holy. I think I just was like, holy crap, and I thought it was done because it goes to black.
Yeah.
And then we pick up
You start off with Ellie a little bit later on, her arms healed, that kind of thing. Her and Gina are living with the child in the farmhouse,
Yep. And
and she's suffering from PTSD, that kind of
yes,
thing.
which is very it's a very, I know a lot of people, I know friends that would totally relate to that. So any traumatic event can cause those sort of feelings. So it was just that for me was super powerful, seeing her with the baby on her, and Dina finding her, and I thought that was really beautiful, like that whole entire just looking at the mountains and the way the grass was and the animals and like hands down, just like one of the most beautiful moments in gaming I've ever experienced. Just the scenery and everything. It was ridiculous.
Well, it kind of came down to the whole thing because they had talked to each other about like during the game they had talked to each other about how like what would they do, like given the option to and stuff like that, and Dina had said that she wanted a farmhouse.
Yes, they
type
had that
deal,
conversation. That's
so
what they
it
would
was
do.
kind of cool like for them to go back and to that moment and actually do that and set that whole thing up where it's like, okay, they found peace outside of the mess and outside of all the bullshit. Like it doesn't matter how crazy the world gets, there's a way to find peace in all that stuff. And
With that said,
yeah,
they led you to think that when she was going by herself out to get the stuffed animal off the tractor, they led you to believe something was going to happen to Ellie at that moment.
Absolutely. They were kind of leading you along the entire time, and I think most people that played it realized something big was coming.
I loved it.
I didn't think it was going to be something ultra violent, so like it was just one of those things where, like I knew at that point there, it's like, okay, you're not going to flesh out Ellie's character at the end of the game and not flesh out what happened with Abby. There's no way that they're going to do. So how are they going to completely bring this whole thing together? How are they going to encapsulate this?
See, in my mind, I was thinking that it was done. I was thinking the story with Abby was done, and we were getting the wrap up at them in those moments, because I was already thinking it was over. Right before that, then we got the farm, and then they're leading you to think something bad's about to happen, and I did. I thought something bad was going to happen to Ellie, and that was going to be the end.
Yeah. Well, the amount of time you spent playing as Abby, there was no way they were going to leave it open-ended like that.
Well, yeah, thinking about it now, yeah.
That was my thought process.
In the time, though, that's what I thought. But yeah, hindsight, yeah, definitely thinking. I agree now. Yeah, they put too much in, they invested too much in Abby for it to be over just like that. So
so going through that whole process with Ellie and having her, like showing the family life, her and Dina and the child all together, and then you're going through these processes, and then you get to that little bout of PTSD with her, where she's kind of experiencing like, it's still a looming thing in her head, like the death of Joel and all that stuff and everything she's been up to. Like, it's still a thought she has. It's a process that she goes through. It's like, is she doing the right thing? Like, should she just leave the whole Abby situation gone? What would Joel think about the whole situation? Like, all these things go through your head, and then Tommy shows up.
That's the big.
And what ruined it? What fucked it up for me though is not just hearing his voice, but I had subtitles on in the game, and it tells you Tommy is talking. Tommy says words. Whatever.
See, I didn't see that. I didn't see that
So,
until I got in the house. I didn't know whose horse it was outside. I was still thinking something bad's about to happen, and then it's Tommy. And you said you had you said something that was powerful for you earlier. You were saying something about that moment.
Yep. So going into that whole conversation with Tommy, and you see him like, because what happened with Abby when she blasted him, she grazed his right eye, and you see the scar and the damage to his right eye.
Yeah, and that was a whole wow moment for me, because I thought he was dead.
Yeah, in those scenes and stuff like that. But then you go into this whole process, and Ellie just makes the decision to say that she's not going to go. She's not going to do this. Like she's done with it and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, bam, Tommy just turns on a dime and just is completely against them and completely against Ellie. Like, you made this promise to me and stuff like that. I can't go, so you have to go. Blah,
but why
blah,
can't he go?
Well, like
That's what
I think it's because of his eye and like he's getting old and stuff like that. But
that's what I thought.
you look at the you look at the one situation, like there was a scene earlier on and stuff like that where they were all together and Tommy had said something to Ellie about just leaving, going back to Jackson and forgetting about Abby. And then all of a sudden now he shows up when they're happy and peaceful, and he's trying to force her into going to do his dirty work after she's gone through hell, to do all this stuff. And years, all this time has passed, and all of a sudden he's showing up on her doorstep, and like he's supposed to be the voice of reason
Oh,
with
he
everybody.
snapped. He snapped.
But
He
now
lost everything.
but no, he didn't. That's the thing though. Is like he's supposed to be the voice of reason, but then he comes in and he's like, like I get it. Like he felt like okay at that point they're like they're gonna forget about Abby, but then she comes at them again. She freaking blows his eye out and stuff. I get he's still pissed about it, but it's like how can he all of a sudden turn on a dime like that and just tell Ellie after Ellie?
See,
got
I saw it
completely-
as I saw
after
it.
Ellie got completely fucked up by Abby, like completely beat to snot. Like the only reason why Ellie was still alive is because of Lev.
Yeah.
And after all that, Tommy is gonna guilt trip her into leaving again.
See,
mean,
I saw
that
it
just-
as I saw
that
it
just
as
seems
he.
out of character for me.
I just saw it as he lost everything and he was he's on his last straw. He can't go because he physically can't go, and his wife left him, Marie, and he has nothing left, and he's still angry. The anger that brought him out there in the first place, and I think it's a little bit selfish, and I think it's mainly selfish. I think that he lost everything, and that's why he is doing that. Because you hear him out on the porch arguing with Dina. He's not reasonable. He's not being reasonable. So it's something.
It felt too out of character for Tommy. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if they had fleshed it out a little bit, like if they had gone a little bit like more into it, but I think it was just so abrupt for me that it just seemed out of character. Other than that,
I gotcha.
Like there was something that was going to pull her back in, obviously, going through because it's a game, it's a story they have to tell, they have to go through this whole process. But having Tommy all of a sudden go through this whole process and like he just flips on a dime, it didn't feel right to me.
Okay,
so that was
I can appreciate that. See, I saw it differently, but I can appreciate that. Like that's how you saw it. So, So looking at Ellie when Dina was out on the porch, to me, I saw Ellie stewing like. She knew she was gonna have to go.
She was gonna go.
That night.
The only thing she was thinking about is how she was gonna explain it to Dina.
How she was gonna explain it to Dina, how she was gonna let Dina down. So that was a powerful moment when Dina was begging her to stay, and she went anyway, and it was just something Ellie felt she had to finish, and so we get to California, and we track her down with Tommy's information. And we fight through this snake. They're slave traders and
the rattlers.
Because we had played as Abby again, and Abby and Lev got captured by the rattlers, and they were being held captive. And so we finally get there. After that, we finally get there with Ellie, and we fight through all the guards. And somehow Ellie makes it in, and she makes it down to the cells, and she sees all the prisoners down there, but she doesn't see Abby. And so then, she makes it out there to Abby, and it took me a minute to find Abby because I was looking for this big burly character hanging up on the stake. And
when
that powerful moment,
one character I could interact with.
Yes,
like
I didn't think it was her.
Abby.
I didn't think it. Thought it was somebody going to say she's already gone or whatever, and sure enough, it's a scrawny person. You don't know if it's a lady or a guy. You can't tell because of what we saw Abby as the whole game, and
with her hair cut short.
Yeah, and she's frail, and Ellie cuts her down, and and then they get Lev down, and she's like just like nonchalantly. It was almost like Abby thought Ellie was there to save.
There to rescue her.
Yeah, she says this way. The boats are this way. Not even thinking anything.
She's like, there's boats this way.
And Ellie follows her, and you can tell Ellie's hurt because she could barely get up the mound of sand, and she got that stab wound in her side from when she got trapped, and so her putting that knife to Lev and forcing her, 'cause she was gonna let him go, and she was putting her stuff in the boat next to the boat that Abby and Lev were getting into, and she was gonna let them go, and she had a flashback of Joel bleeding on the floor, and that moment to me was just like, holy crap. I cannot believe she's going to do this. I was yelling at the TV. What are you doing? Let her go. Let her go. Like, it was such a strange moment to me. She holds the knife to Lev's throat and is like, you're going to fight me. Like, it was just so like, what the hell are you doing? Almost like she knew she might die there, but she didn't care because she had to end it one way or another.
That moment to be like the end of it all.
One way or another, it was going to end right there. And so
whether or not, because she had already given up on Dina. She had already given up, on everything that she had sought out for. She had gone through all that. She's in a tremendous amount of pain. At this point here, she just wants to be done with it. She wants this demon gone.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So regardless of anything, the only way she's going to be able to tackle this demon is if she turns and looks at Abby and says, I can't let you leave.
Yep. And it was like she didn't care if she died or she didn't care if Abby died. Somebody had to leave there not breathing at that moment. Did you again fail on purpose to see what would happen? Because I did.
No, but so we're doing this battle, and I'm beating Abby pretty easily and stuff like that. And then it got to the point where she is, she's down in the water and she's going, no, it's like, and then they give you the option to strike her. This is right at the end of it. It's like you have to strike her so it starts the whole like trying to drown her thing, and that was the moment when I paused. Like I put my controller down and I waited to see.
I did too.
A different option.
I did too. A good minute.
I did not want to kill.
I sat there a good minute saying,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to do this. I do not. I mean, my controller was on the table in front of me, and I was saying, I don't want to do this. There's got to be another option.
I did not want to be. I did because at that point there, you come to the realization that like it doesn't make anything better. You know what I mean? Like she's gone through hell. She's got people she's got to take care of. Like what good does it do killing her?
Yep.
And even though you have her at that moment that Ellie has most desired, what purpose does it serve? And that I think that's the moment. That's the realization, because when you finally hit the button and Ellie chokes her and holds her underwater, and she sees that flash, Joel, and like I think she hits that moment in her head where she's just like, maybe he did want something better. Maybe as he got older and he, maybe this doesn't have to be this way, and she lets Abby live, and it's just like it was crazy
powerful,
moment
man.
Where,
It was. I almost, my eyes were watering. I was just like so torn by what was going on. And I didn't want to do it. And then, she finally lets her up and they go their separate ways. And it was just, wow. So
then you have that moment where she goes back to the farmhouse.
It's
Ellie goes
empty,
back to the farmhouse.
which
it's
I figured.
gone.
I figured it was empty,
except for all the art and Ellie's guitar.
Yep.
And it's like you realize at that point that it's not salvageable. The relationship between her and Dina, it's not salvageable.
In my mind,
she's got to make peace with that.
In my mind, I was thinking, okay, everything's gone. I walked up into the room, and I think I even said at one moment, oh, thanks a lot, Dina. You leave the window open so that my stuff gets ruined. What the hell? Joking around. But then she sits down, and she tries to play that song, and she can't play it because she's missing two fingers, because during that last fight, Abby bit off her pinky and her ring finger, so she can't play. And that's the moment that I realized she lost everything. And she got nothing. Nobody got anything out of this. If anything, Abby got a new relationship with Lev, and I didn't know it at the time, but they made it to the Fireflies. So after that, the game's over. We get the credits. you know, that I realize, oh my God, it's she lost everything and then some, and then we get that new game plus screen, press any button, and uh, what's crazy to me is I thought that was California, and it wasn't until I listened to an interview, and Neil Druckmann was saying, no, that's Catalina Island. So that means that Abby and Lev made it to the Fireflies.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? So,
Huh.
so the so the idea and the question I have written down here is, where do they go from here? Do they go anywhere from here? And do you think that they will, Naughty Dog as a company, will go with a part 3, or will they go in a different direction with a different game? What do you think their next move is?
Dude, I can't tell. Like, going back to the whole first game and stuff like that, like I thought it was perfectly fine the way it was. And being in this situation here, like with these
Here's
two people, I feel like this story is done. This story is fleshed out. It's all done. You know, like I don't need to know more about, like, I don't want them to just drag Abby's story on or drag Ellie's story on. Like, let
See,
Ellie be.
this
Let
is why
Abby be.
this is why I think that this was part of the overall plan all along, okay? I think that they're at the Fireflies, right? Ellie was mad at Joel for what? Because he didn't let her fulfill her destiny, right? So if Abby's at the Fireflies and the Fireflies exist again, then this opens up tons of room for us to let Ellie, so Ellie can fulfill her original destiny, which is to help create a cure. So this to me opens up entire new chapter where you know, Ellie could we could see a similar situation with Ellie being involved with Abby somehow and making it to the Fireflies, and you know, being dying, you know, whatever, however they do it. There's, you know, the writing is end, you know, you can do anything you want with it, but the ideas are flowing. I mean, I do see it as that would end the story to me. That would end the series. You know, they could end it on that note. I don't know how they would end Abby and Lev's story. I mean, somehow involved with it, but there is that possibility. But after hearing Neil Druckmann talk in interviews, it sounds like the whole leak situation and the negative feedback from all the haters has really affected him to a point where we may never see it again. Even if they planned on doing a game, there's a possibility that we may not, because it seems to have shook him to his core. Just the way he's been talking in interviews. Like, he said the day that the leak happened was the worst day of his life. And
Well,
like
imagine what he went through on social media with all that shit. I mean,
he was getting death threats. He was getting death threats.
How toxic, yeah, you know how toxic the gaming community can be, even though it's like, yeah, like you guys, you like none of these guys have any balls. They would never do anything in real life. You know what I mean? Like, they would never do anything. They have no freaking desire to actually carry out any. But it's like it's the emotional, like, expense that is behind the whole thing. It's like, what is the point behind it? Why are you so fucking fired up about this? And it's like, you have all these people riding the bandwagon. Well, this group is mad, so I'm gonna be mad too, you know? That kind of thing. It just kind of snowballs, and then you have this one guy that's just receives all of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he's got to be the filter for his entire team and just take on this whole thing. And what a mess, man. I can only imagine what he feels like, but I hope it doesn't deter him from anything.
I hope it doesn't either.
I hope they keep going the way they're going, because I imagine if, like, doing the TV show that they want to do, okay, yeah, like, just go through the whole process, do a couple seasons of like establishing characters, new characters, and the stuff, and then start bringing in these people, like, and start mentioning Abby in the Fireflies.
Yeah, they could.
Discussing how
I kind of do
how
hope
she
they
knew
go
somebody.
new storyline. I hope they
Yeah,
do. If they do.
right. They bring up Abby passively and talking about how like she had brought up that there was somebody and that she had encountered that claimed to have been, you know, um, immune to it, and then spend the rest, like the next couple seasons, with these people trying to track down this mystical character Ellie that has, you know, an immunity to it. You know, like do it like that. Like don't just like pick up. Don't just redo Joel and Ellie's story or Abby's story with everybody.
Yeah,
Like bring them
I
in,
can get
bring
on board
them
with
in
that.
as side characters.
I can get on board
And
with
like,
that.
yeah.
So this brings me to another question, and then we'll kind of start to wrap up. The question about DLC, Neil Druckmann says, no, they don't have any planned story DLC. But the question was, would you want to see a DLC with Tommy's day 1, 2, and 3 in Seattle? My answer is hell no. We played Seattle 1, 2, and 3 from the two perspectives that I care about. I would not want to see Tommy's perspective of the same thing, you know, that we already experienced through Ellie and Abby. To jump off of that, would you want to see a standalone DLC that took place from Joel at the beginning of Last of Us 1 to 20 years later when he meets Ellie? Those 20 years prior to meeting Ellie.
Are you saying like if they were to do one, I would have to choose between the two, or like because I would not like I don't want to see any of that. Yeah.
That's what I was looking for. I
none of that stuff.
I would not want to see mainly anything to do with Tommy and his perspective. I think that what we see of Tommy is enough. And as far as a prequel with Joel, I think that if we're going to see that, I think that could be its own entire game. I think that could be an entire game years from now. But I think that they could probably take a break and move on to part 3 or move on to another series. Either way is fine with me. But I overall, talking it through, I still feel the same way I did at the beginning of this conversation. I absolutely love the game, but
me too.
I did hate parts. And I appreciate your perspective. I think that this was a pretty good conversation. I think that we agree on most things, almost all things. Yeah, I mean, what a great game. I mean, my whole thing is it's games like this that, to me, make me so supportive of PlayStation, and why I always say, like, they have the roster, they have the library when the whole console war conversation comes up. I think that it's games like this that push the industry forward, and allow other storytellers to tell and try new things, because I mean, he knew that he was going to get backlash, and Neil Druckmann knew he was going to get backlash, and he still went for it, and that is freaking awesome.
They took a huge risk with the way they told the story, like I was saying before, and they went with their gut on this, and I feel like they really just knocked it out of the park.
100%.
I mean, like I said, like nothing's perfect. I mean, there's going to be these elements to it that just don't work. There was a few of them that didn't work for me, and then like the one major one was Tommy's whole thing. But altogether, for me, the game was, I mean, it was incredible.
So yeah, recapping this game, man, that was actually really fun. You know, I'm gonna do my best to put some video to what we were talking about, and we'll get this up on the channel as soon as possible. But I do appreciate you. I hope we can do more stuff like this for PlayStation games in the future. PS5 coming up. We got a lot to talk about.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
I definitely appreciate you. So you can follow Rusty on Twitter at
Rusty Sheriffsbag.
What's that mean, Rusty? What's that mean?
I don't want to talk about it.
It's so it's at Rusty Sheriffsbad, and it's SHRFS, right?
Yep.
Rusty Sheriff's badge. It'll be on the screen, and yeah,
I was
follow
character limited on Xbox many years ago.
Oh, that's why. Okay, so
Yep.
So yeah, follow Rusty on Twitter if you want to follow what he's up to, and you can follow me at RiseUp44 and at Nalyo Gaming. Hit that like button, leave a comment below, let me know if you agree with us, if you disagree, any any of it at all, I would love to hear your feedback, and we'll leave it there. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you soon.